I appreciate you guys having me, and thank you all for being here in Arlington. That's what I love about this, first of all. So, those of you guys don't know me, I spent 30 years in Dallas, second in command chief when I left there, retired. Loving this place right here. Love this apartment. Love this culture we have. So, this isn't about me. It's about my buddy, where he's at right here. Um, Super proud of this guy. I actually met him before I came here. He's guys like him are the reasons I love this department, and he's an amazing person. He's an incredible guy, incredible captain on our department, very well respected. 10 plus years on the truck, numerous years. I don't even know how many years on the engines. He's been an officer for a long, long time, and so this is a guy that's actually done it, right? A lot of people out there that talk about it. There's some that actually talk about it that have done it. And he's the guy that's done it. So I'm proud of him. I'm not going to take up any more of his time. Come on up. It's your time, bro.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for that introduction, man. Well, I've said repeatedly that I was going to walk around while I do this, and that is obviously not going to happen. So I'm going to do my best not to fall down these stairs, but yeah, if I do, it'll be part of the show.
Just follow Cody.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks for the introduction. He pretty much said what I would have said, about just working here for a few years and riding the ladder truck. I've been blessed that the majority of my career was at a double company, still is. And I've ridden with some outstanding firefighters, outstanding officers. It's really been a blessing. It's been a privilege. Right from the beginning, because of those people, I developed a passion for the truck company. And I spent a few years as an engine officer. I loved every bit of it, but I got back on the ladder truck as soon as I could do it. Tonight, I'm going to talk through some things with you that I'm passionate about, some things that I believe are important, and I don't want to do that without prefacing you with this. The things that I share with you tonight are all things that have been shared with me, and some of the people that shared them with me are sitting in the room tonight. The things that I say aren't original. They're not unique to me. It's something they taught me directly, or they inspired me to go down a path of investigation to learn more about whatever subject that may be. Now, a lot more people in my career had a positive influence on me than this. This is a small piece of it, but I believe these people on this list had a direct impact on some of the things that I'm talking about tonight. Something I want you to know is that it's important to me to be a forever student. And I know some of us have probably had this conversation before. Without that mentality, without that mindset, just real growth and real development just can't happen. And as I get further into my career, I find sometimes that it's tough to maintain that mentality, right? I got years under my belt, and I want to get set in my ways. There's things that I firmly believe in. But if I can maintain an open mind, then that's where real growth and development happens. This is something that's kind of personal to me. I've got it written a few places. It's something that I tell myself periodically, and I call it the disclaimer. My opinions and beliefs are subject to change with quality instruction. And so it's important to me for my own growth and development, but I'm asking you tonight to keep this in mind. This is important for all of us. If you truly want to make a difference and you truly want to pass it on, this is something you should subscribe to. How many times you guys hear conversations about the mission? All the time, right? Constant mission talk in the fire service right now. And it's a beautiful thing, right? I love mission talk. It fires me up. It's talked about so much that sometimes I'm afraid that maybe we're watering it down. Now, I don't think that we can really water down what the mission is, but I think that we can talk about it to a point that maybe we just don't take it serious anymore. We don't take it serious enough. It's important that from time to time, us as individuals, we address this. We go back and we take a look at this and what it means to us as an individual. I think it's important for us to put words to it. When we put words to what the mission is, then it means something more to us. It's tangible. It's something in our face, right? So from time to time, we should go back and we should ask ourselves what the mission really is. What does this mean to us? And so now I'm going to ask you. Somebody tell me what the mission is to them. Anybody? Spit it out. Making grabs. Yeah, baby. Save lives, protect property. What else? Preparedness. Absolutely. For me, the words I put to it are meet the need. Okay? It's meet the need and expectations of the person that calls upon us with a high level of professionalism, high level of performance. In a nutshell, to me, that's what the mission is. Now, there's personal pieces of this, right? Especially as you climb the ranks, as you promote. There's personal pieces of the mission that develop along your career. A good example is the mission of passing it on, right? To me, that's important. It's one of the reasons I'm standing here tonight. This is way out of my wheelhouse. They're laughing because they know it. But that's an important part of my mission. An important part of my personal mission is to see those men in that picture go home to their families, right? And that's great. That's great when you have those personal pieces of the mission. The important thing is that they align with the overall mission of the fire service. And everything y'all said is right. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you to do something tonight. I told you there's all this mission talk, and I've been talking about it for 5 minutes now. I'm going to ask everybody in this room to set an expectation of performance for yourself from start to finish on the fire ground based solely on the mission. Based solely on what the mission means to you. Okay? Now, we're not going to circle back. You're going to hear me use the word mission over and over tonight, but we're not going to circle back to the overall meaning of it. I'm going to assume right now that we all have established what that is and the importance of it. All right? Y'all ready? Now we can start. So whenever I look around, and this has been going on for a long time, when I look around my own environment, I see firefighters that are highly competent, highly effective in skills, tactics, and technique. I'm talking about those guys in that picture, but it's not just the guys in the picture. We have department-wide training, right? We just finished a couple of things in Arlington where every crew in the city came through fire training, and I got to be a part of teaching some of that. And I see this over and over. And we all know that not everybody's on the same level, right? Not everybody's maybe meeting that expectation. But this is widespread. When we go outside our own walls, a bunch of us just got back from Wichita. met a bunch of great guys, and I see this. I look around this room, and I see it. So something that hit me hard a few years ago that I had a hard time figuring out, I had a hard time putting my finger on what it was. This was happening. And there was some kind of disconnect. There was something lacking in our performance. And as I speak to you tonight, I want you to understand that I'm talking from my own perspective, my own fire department, right? I don't know what some of you other guys are dealing with in your fire departments. I'm sure we have some of the same challenges, but I can't speak to that, so bear with me. For some reason, the dots weren't being connected. And I've had a hard time putting words to this. The more I thought about it, and then I realized what I was experiencing was during a period in our fire department where we had this massive turnover. This gigantic turnover, right? And where we are right now with this, I think is unprecedented. It's unbelievable. People getting outside their own walls, the amount of travel taking place, just to go force some doors, bang some ladders, right? It's outstanding. I stewed on it, and then it hit me. We had this massive turnover, and there was something that wasn't being taught as widespread as it once was. And then I realized it's my fault. It's my fault because these things that I'm talking about were handed to me. And I haven't done a good enough job passing it on. And so what I think is next, what my opinion that we've been missing is training on the thought processes that go along with, again, speaking from my world, truck operations. It's our thought processes. It's truck theory, it's truck strategy, it's the correct truck mindset. I think what will connect the dots for us is mission-based decision-making and mission-focused performance. Y'all get me a water. Dry as hell, man. Sorry. Now, that word theory's gotten kind of a dirty rap in the fire service the last couple of years. And that's cool, and I appreciate that message. But I'm not talking about theory as in unproven assumptions, okay? I'm talking about theory as in the underlying principles of what we do and why we do it. I'm talking about truck strategy as in the long game. What we do now, what's that outcome going to be? What's that going to look like? And the mindset, the truck mindset, that's another thing that we've spoken about over the years, and it's important. And I hear guys that ride on a truck and they talk about, oh, this guy's got the truck mindset, or he doesn't have the truck mindset. But I think it's gotten watered down. I'm going to get watered down. Thank you, boss. I think we mistake the truck mindset for this. I think we often mistake it for the bull rush mentality, right? Come in hard and fast, overwhelm the scene, overpower the scene, bulldoze anybody in our way, right? I see a smile back there. You know what I'm talking about. I think sometimes we mistake that word aggressive for the truck mentality. Truth is, I like fast and aggressive. I think those are great traits. But what does that really mean? Does that mean we're good firefighters? I've got a 5-year-old nephew named Nolan that's fast and aggressive. What was it, 3 nights ago? Where's Tyler Ramsey? 3 nights ago, we had a Christmas parade in the little town we live in. We went out there with some family. Nolan was with us. Parker County engine drives by. Tyler's in there. I'm on the side. Yeah, Tyler. I'm waving, trying to get his attention and shit. And Nolan comes out of nowhere, fast and aggressive, pinches the hell out of me. It hurts so bad I blacked out for 15, 20 seconds. It's fast and aggressive. He's not a fireman. He's not a good fireman. He's got truck guy written all over him, but he's not a fireman. Sometimes the bull rush mentality leads to us operating in a little out of control manner, being a little wild, right? How many times you've been in a room overhauling and all of a sudden 3 or 4 people walk in and just destroy the place around you and leave, and you're standing there wondering what the hell just happened, right? Leads to us being a little out of control. And it can lead to tunnel vision. So what I want for our people, what I hope for all of you, is to be the thinking firefighter. I want us to skillfully complete our tasks, to dissect problems into bite-sized pieces, and to learn to think ahead. We talk about thinking ahead all the time, but there's a way to learn this. There's a way to learn it. What I ask of my guys, my own crew, there's something we talk about a lot. It's called the list. We refer to it as the list. And I ask them to work the list until the mission's complete. Work the list until the mission's complete. So the list is nothing new. In fact, it is very, very old. It was here long before any of us were. And you can find it in a lot of textbooks. It really became something special to me and really became real to me when I found myself reporting for duty to a truck company for the first time. A bunch of young, hard-charging guys. I was the new guy first day, but the kicker was I was the captain. So I found out real quick that maybe their beliefs weren't aligned with mine as to how the truck company should function. So I had a need to start from scratch, to go through, to show them a path of how the truck should operate, how we should be thinking, how to think ahead. And this is how it started. So I'm going to ask you the question. What's the primary responsibility of an engine company on the fire ground? Say it again. What'd you say? Fire attack. Right? It's fire attack. It's back up the attack. It's exposures. It's water supply. It's all things water. Right? That's a specialized unit. It's designed to fight fire. What's the primary responsibility of the truck company on a fire? Say it again, boss.
Everything else.
Everything else. And I love it. And I heard it over here. I love it when people answer the question that way. Because that's exactly right. It's everything else. So think of the list as a list of all fireground support functions. Everything. It's everything but water. Okay? The list always begins with forcible entry. Got to get inside. Search. Right? That's what we're here for. And ventilation. Ventilation supports the search, supports the fire attack. We want to work through the list throughout the incident. Okay? And if you're in our environment, we say no stopping. No stopping until the boss tells us to take a break, till the boss makes us. The mission that we've already established has determined the items on that list for us. We don't have to worry about that. It already exists. The mission will dictate the order in which we attack those items, and mission focus will get us through the list. Now, if I ask anybody in this room to sit down and write down a list of things you consider to be truck work or truck functions, you would come up with this. It would be virtually the same. There's a couple of things on here because this is my list. They're a little different. But this is the stuff. When you open that truck company book or you open a truck manual from some other city, these are the things that you see. That list of truck work. A couple of things that are different on this, right under the ladders there, have the engines back. That's an important piece to us, especially for our inside team, but it's all our truck members. And what that means is you don't walk past a kink in the front yard. You don't walk past a coupling hung up in a screen door. You take 5 seconds inside when you're inside team and you manage a pinch point for that engine to make the fire. Under that is dig it out. And that really goes hand in hand with having the engines back. That is closely related to overhaul. But overhaul, when we talk about it, it has such a finality to it, right? We think of it as the end of things. No, this is in the beginning. Digging it out is getting inside, opening up so the engine can get a good knock on the fire. As you go down the list, there's a couple of other things in there in the bottom that I threw in just because I've got to think about that stuff, right? I'm supposed to be the designated adult, so I got to make sure that everybody gets a drink of water, and so re-up your air, rehab your people. Those things can fall anywhere within the list. So back to the mission. The mission dictates that this list be separated into primary and secondary truck functions. The primary truck functions are those things that need our immediate attention when we arrive on the fire scene. So the initial priorities for the fire department, when we show up to a fire attack, search, ventilation. Those three things. And the goal is to accomplish those things as close to the same time as possible, as close to simultaneous as possible. The primary truck functions, that's the truck company's piece of that. So if we're going to accomplish that stuff simultaneous, this is the mindset. This is the way you think. If we're going to accomplish those things simultaneous, then it means the truck company has to split. The primary truck functions dictate that the truck crew splits to nail those initial priorities. The split is determined by the building type and by separating the scene into geographical work areas. Those geographical work areas, and everybody's heard this before, this is inside, outside, topside. I call it the battleground, the truck's battleground, because it sounds cool. But the funny thing is, if you think about it, inside, outside, topside, where is that? It's everywhere, right? The truck company's responsibility is everything else. It's everywhere. The reason we separate it into geographical work areas is to make sense of the split. It also creates this beautiful little truck company accountability thing. We'll talk about that a little more. So when you're working in one of these work areas, you own a piece of that list. And you must think in terms of working the list. Inside. Forcible entry, we got to get in, right? When we go to search, we search for victims, we search for the fire, we search for extension. Have the engines back. Dig it out. And just since you're the guys in there screwing around, go ahead and figure out what we need to salvage. Get us the salvage size up. Call out for needs. Now, that can be calling out to other members of the truck crew, that can be calling out to command. But let them know what you need inside. Outside, or the OV position. We recently had a department-wide RIC training. And a portion of that training was discussing proactive RIC operations. And I thoroughly enjoy that because it aligns perfectly with truck work. It aligns really well with second due truck work. And I think it most closely aligns, at least in my world, with the outside position. A big part of proactive RIC, just like outside, softening the building, right? Yeah, we want that exhaust point control. And then again, in our world, if we are using positive pressure, then this is the person or team that's initially going to manage it. So force an entry or force an egress, right? Because we're softening the building. Outside position is going to ladder the building. Now, I'm not saying they can't ladder the roof, but we're going to focus on windows. Exhaust point control. And then this next one's something that we like to discuss, and I think it's really important. It's focus on the targeted search. If you're in that outside position, especially if you're coming off the rig together, if the inside team's going to do a targeted search, you're going to know, right? And if you haven't heard that said, you're going to have an inkling that it's happening because of reported traps, something like that. So we want our outside position to focus on that targeted search area. Like that's their starting point. When you go to start softening, throwing ladders, we want you to start there. And keep an eye on that area. If they do get a grab, you're in the right spot at the right time. Outside utility work, respond to the needs of the inside, and then overhaul. Top side, ladder the building. You guys tell me if I'm wrong, but if we ladder a residential structure in Arlington, I'm going to say 8, 9 times out of 10, our intention is to cut the roof, right? Sometimes we go to the roof. It's generally commercial, maybe big commercial structure. Maybe we'll go up there for a roof report or scout something out. But if we're laddering residential, we're thinking vertical ventilation. So I want that on my list. Ladder the building, vertical ventilation's number 2. When you cut that hole, if you get high pressure, high velocity, black fire, expand the hole. Expand the hole. Put that on your list. That should be something that you need to check off, okay? We either did it or we don't need to. Get a look at the rear. So you have the high ground. Nobody else on the fire scene right now has the vantage point that you have. So take that opportunity to look around. Get a look at the rear, but also you just cut a hole. So take a look at what your vent's doing, right? We have a habit of rushing off the roof, and I get it. I understand why. But take a moment and make sure that what you intended to happen is happening, right? You're not getting all that smoke from the eaves anymore. You're getting the lift that you want. Because if you're not, you've either cut over the wrong area or you need to expand that hole. Roof report. Anything you see that you feel the need to pass it on. And then generally, our top side team will exit the roof, join up with the outside. So a couple of conversations I had recently I want to tell you about. One of them is both engine guys, both solid engine guys. One of them an engine lieutenant, and he's telling me a story about first due fire in his district. They show up, pull the lines, one-story house. They go in, they put water on the fire. He calls for ventilation. Tells me you got a lot of smoke, a lot of heat. He calls for ventilation. Now he's telling me this story. He says when he calls for ventilation, he hears himself on the radio behind him. And so he realizes he's got people behind him. So he turns around and he starts asking who's there and grabbing people and trying to figure out what's going on. And it's his first due truck company. And he says, what the hell are you doing? They say, we're searching. Sounds great, right? Well, the truck was running with three. There were three people in there in his face. And then he realizes they had a squad attached. So they have 5 people in there searching. And as he's telling me this, he's getting ticked off, you know, and he rants for a little bit about what BS that is and how our truck companies need to do a better job and how this type of thing keeps happening. Another conversation's with a driver of a busy engine, solid dude, squared away. He's out doing some training with his crew. I happen to be hanging around watching. He starts teasing me because I'm a truck guy. He starts teasing me about how truck guys always get in the way. They always get in that crew's way. And so I'm talking smack. I'm like, nah, bullshit, it's not me, whatever. And it's not. His first due truck is a different truck. He goes on, he tells me a little bit more about it. And I get to thinking, like this is a the common denominator here is the engine guys aren't getting the support that they need, right? So when you don't work the list, and remember, have the engines back. Literally, our job is to search buildings, make grabs, and make the engine company successful. That's really what it is. When you're not working the list, when you're not focused on the mission, there's no order to things. You're just winging it. That's what those truck companies were doing. Work the list. Think of the list as a path that we walk. The mission is determine the items on the list for us. The mission will dictate the order in which we attack those items. Mission focus will keep us on the path. Now, I'm going to take a left-hand turn just because I can. So, a conversation, a discussion about truck operations took place recently. I wasn't a part of it. A good friend of mine was a part of it. And he's telling me about it later. And I got a kick out of it. And so I threw this in there because I wanted to share it with y'all. The discussion was, we were talking about splitting the truck company and how that looks, talking about dismounts or riding assignments, and some statements were made that that's an old school way of doing things. It's an old school way of thinking. And I got a pretty good laugh. Because I don't think those guys in that conversation really understand just how old school it is. This was shared with me not too long ago, and so I felt the need to share it with you tonight, and I'm going to read it to you. This is a letter to company commanders from Ralph J. Scott, Chief Engineer of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Chief Engineer is what they used to call their fire chief. What would be the fire chief today? The subject is LAFD Truck Company SOPs. In past years, the staffing of LAFD truck companies was reserved for firemen who had proven themselves through physical strength, ability, and actual firefighting experience. The assignment to a truck company was a position that was earned within the engine house and was usually considered a permanent assignment. Firefighting requires constant vigilance, hard work, a sound mind, and the diligent application of basic fundamentals. Only through hard work and dedication to duty, he's talking about the mission, dedication to duty, could a fireman earn the respect required in the engine house to be assigned to a permanent position in the truck company. He goes on to finish. Effective immediately, all truck company officers will be held strictly accountable in applying these standards in assigning positions on the LAFD truck companies. Signed, Ralph J. Scott. But the beautiful thing The best thing about this is the date. It's July 18th, 1919. So yeah, it's old school. It's an old school way of thinking. Why do you think we're still doing some of the things they were doing then? Why do you think we still take that pride in a truck company? At least some of us, right? Because those things work. Because those things are mission focused. I don't know when a truck company came into existence. I don't know when it was born. But what I do know is that it was born out of necessity. It was a need back then, and it's still a need right now. There is a need for a group of firefighters to perform mission critical, intense, dirty work on the fire ground without being weighed down by the need to put water on the fire. They needed that then, they still need it today. These firefighters must be free to move around the fire ground and do whatever needs to be done in support of the mission. And no, I'm not talking about freelancing. Don't worry, Chief. Remember, if we work that list and we operate in those geographical work areas, inside, outside, topside, that's a built-in accountability system for us. If we teach our people that, then I know where my guys are, I know what they're doing, I know what tools they're carrying. That's extreme accountability. If we teach all our people this, if we teach it in our fire departments, our fire ground commanders know where I'm working, what I'm doing, and what tool I'm carrying. All right, I'm taking another turn. So, this is something that I knew we were going to talk about tonight. I couldn't pass it up, right? After the things we've kind of led up to this. And I wasn't exactly sure how to address it because we all do this different, right? Regardless if you have a dedicated truck company or not. If you do truck work, if you were ever assigned truck work, I hope there's something of value in here for you. But I'm not going to go down through assignments and what they should be because tactics are local. They really are. And we adjust based on our cities and our response areas. Those basics can take you where you need to go with seat assignments. Understanding the list, understanding to work the list, think through the list, understand the work areas. We're going to talk about seat assignments, but in a little different manner. So, about a month ago, where's Cabo? Was it a month ago we went to that class? So we had the opportunity to sit in aerial operations, right? And a good conversation. It was truck boss conversation, and truck one just happened to go down there to kind of assist with the class, be a part of the conversation. And a question was asked to me in that class. We started talking seat assignments. We started talking the split. And one of the guys in the class asked me, he says, what do you do about, or how do you address a captain that doesn't believe in any of this, won't even consider it? And so I tell him, I say, man, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. You know, feel for you. Well, that's crap. That was a crappy answer. I've been on the job long enough, I should be able to give him a better answer than that. And I've been stewing about it ever since, so this is my chance to give him a better answer. It really worked out well because he's here tonight. So from the time I was a 2-3 year firefighter, I've had to defend this. The reason I had to defend it is because the man sitting back there, he demanded it of us. He taught it to us, Don Gibson. I was working overtime or standby. I was at Station 9. There was a crusty old captain. I'm sitting at the table having coffee, and he sits down and he goes straight at my captain about dismount procedures and about how Don Gibson's making robots of you guys. making robots of you. I didn't know what to say. This is what he said. I don't want my guys to be robots. I want them to think for themselves. Well, that makes sense, right? I think I can subscribe to that belief. I think he was a little misguided about what that meant, what riding assignments were, or what dismount procedures were. So I want to do a little experiment, and I need some volunteers. Garrett, I'm going to give you an assignment, okay? Today, you're riding truck 1 with me. Hey, man, you better get your game face on, baby. You're riding truck 1 with me, okay? You ride behind me. If we get a fire, don't do shit until I tell you. Don't do anything. I'm serious. Quit smiling. Your assignment is don't do anything till I tell you. You got it? What are you thinking about right now? I like your style. I like your style. Are you thinking about anything particular about the job? Probably not, because you just said fuck that. One more volunteer. Same thing. I'm going to give you an assignment. Come on, somebody.
I'll take it.
All right, Pat, my man. Pat, I'm going to give you an assignment. I'll give you a riding assignment. So today you're riding truck 1 with me. You're riding the seat behind me. We are the inside team. And you're on irons. If there's a door to force today, it's going to be you. Got it?
Good.
What are you thinking about right now?
Thinking about the type of structure we're pulling up to, what type of tools I need to take, front side, back side, where's the engine entering from, doing a lot of that.
Okay. So I don't have a good answer for this because I like what that captain said. I just think he was misguided. But I feel like that little experiment proves who the robot is and who the thinking firefighter is. Something else that I've heard over the years. And the interesting thing about this one is, it sounds like something an officer would say. But it's not just an officer. This is officers. I've heard drivers say this. I've heard senior firemen say it. I can't trust my firefighters to do what they're supposed to do. This is why I don't have riding assignments. Well, a couple of things pop in my head immediately. And I've revisited it, and it's the same 2 things every time. I can't get past it. First 2 things that pop in my head is that you may have a training issue, and the other thing is that dreaded word, micromanagement. Either one of them, if you're an officer, you're going to have to take a hard look at yourself here, because you can fix both of these things. You can address both of these things. Now, just because it's a training issue doesn't always mean it's a bad thing. Maybe you've inherited a young crew, or there's been a bunch of turnover or something, and you just have a training issue. Something else that we've got to do to address this concern appropriately is put the right people in the right place. Putting someone on a truck just because they need experience is probably not a good plan. Mentor those people. Build those people up. Teach them to work the list. Teach them about the battleground. Set your people up for success. Set the company up for success. Put the right people in the right place. Drill on dismount procedures. We can talk about dismounts and riding assignments, tool assignments all day long, right? When the box comes in, if all you've done is talk about it, it's not going to go well. You're going to have issues. Assign your firefighters to a work area and cut them loose. Give them a little freedom. Give them a chance to earn your trust. The very best firefighters need a little bit of freedom to do their very best work. Ask it, baby.
Somebody supports the dismounts. Curious what your thoughts
Oh, that's a can of worms, brother. I think you know where I stand, and I feel like it's a very basic concept, right? It's a very basic thing. It's nothing new. I think it really makes our training consistent. If we're all operating under that same mentality or SOP, standard, whatever. And there's a lot of cities out there that do it. One of the things that we're facing right now is we're beefing up our fire department to 4-man staffing. Yeah. Thanks, boss. But we're not there all the way yet, right? So day to day, that staffing changes, and there's a lot to what you're asking, because we have 4-man trucks, we have 3-man trucks, we have 4-man with a squad attached, 3-man with a squad attached, 3-man and the captain takes command, and now it's a 2-man truck. Like, we have a lot of things to look at. So I don't know if I answer your question, but I'm 100% on board, because it all puts us on the same playing field and studying and training for the same thing. Last one, something I've heard over the years. Every fire is different. We can't know what we're going to do till we get there. This is another one. It's a lot of us have said things similar to this probably. Every shift's different. Every call's different. But when you really think about it, every fire's different. Principles of fire behavior, fires still start in the same way. They still grow in the same way. They spread in the same way. Fires are so predictable that we have entire lessons, courses, books written on fire science, fire behavior, fire dynamics. And we teach our people how these principles work, how it grows. It's very consistent. So I don't buy that. I don't buy that first statement. I think fires are the same. I really do. I think what's different and what drives this kind of thinking is the built environment. It's the buildings. The building the fire is burning in. Buildings are what's different. Buildings are what dictate fire growth, fire spread. It's the buildings. Fires are the same. Buildings are different. And for those of you that know or remember Frank Brannigan, he was an authority on building construction in the fire service. God rest his soul. He used to say this: the building is your enemy. Know your enemy. He didn't say the fire is your enemy. No shit, right? The building is your enemy. Fire's the same. Buildings are different. The building is your enemy. And the beautiful thing about that is the truck company split should be based on the building type. We already mentioned that earlier. So every fire is different? No, they're the same. And then we can't know what we're going to do till we get there. Well, we've been talking about it all evening. Everybody knows right now, if you come ride truck 1 tonight, you know what you're going to do when you get there. You're going to work the list. You're going to start with forcible entry. Then you're going to search. We're going to ventilate. We're going to try to do it all at the same time. So we're going to split the truck company. Right? If you are resistant to riding assignments, if you yourself are resistant or you're meeting resistance, I got 3 more things I want to share with you. And this one's funny because it keeps happening. Don't know why. If your crew is operating in separate teams, in separate work areas at the same time, you've already bought in. Quit telling people you don't believe in riding assignments. Then you turn around and say, oh, we're inside team tonight. You're already doing it. You just don't have the details dialed in of tool assignments or whatever. If you're working in separate work areas at the same time, you're already doing it. When we talk about this with people that don't believe in it or haven't bought in, we usually speak of seat assignments in specific terms. Just like I told Pat earlier, your irons, right? Hooking the can, saw position. I think when we're trying to make our case, those things sound very restrictive to people that don't know any better, haven't bought in, haven't done their research. So when you're talking about it, speak in terms of the work areas. It makes more sense. That's an easier bite to chew. Inside, outside, top side. Make your teams, put them in there. It's easier to explain, and I think it's easier to understand. Last one. If you're not doing these things, you are literally taking the field in the big game without a play to run. Now, that concept was first shared with me by Captain Gibson, who's sitting back there. He used to always talk about having a plan, the importance of having a plan. We're going to have a plan. If I abandoned the plan, I had explaining to do. I more recently heard it from Chief Scott Thompson. You're not just taking the field without a play to run. You're on the field. The ball snapped. Now you're going to decide what you're going to do. That list doesn't change. It's always existed. It's always going to. Every item on that list has to be addressed in some form or fashion. You can have a plan. You can have a plan before the next fire. Work the list. Think of the list as a path that you walk. The mission has determined the items for us. The mission will dictate the order in which we attack those items. The mission focus will keep us on the path. You buy, brother? A couple of quotes here, and these quotes are special to me, but it's me jacking with my guys too. So we went to a class together, most of the crew, fairly recently, listened to a lecture. The whole lecture was quotes. And I thought it was great, but my guys didn't. They didn't, not so much, right? So I got some quotes in here for you, Cabo. Captain Dale Jenkins, Houston Fire Department, retired. I've never met the man. Hope to buy him a cup of coffee one day. I love reading what he writes. We should never let pride, pressure, or emotion force us to make bad decisions. Anybody in here read this and you're like, yeah, absolutely. I get that. That's good advice just for life in general, right? Captain Jenkins was directing it directly at firefighters in the fire service. And again, just like we can water down the meaning of the mission, sometimes these type of things get watered down. And although we're suffering from this, we're not recognizing it. Pride, pressure, and emotion. Don't let those things be the reason that you're resistant to change. Don't let those things be the reason that you're not giving the mission what it deserves. Don't let those things be the reason you're not training to be the best damn truck company in the nation. If you're not training for that, what are you training for? To be second? To be mediocre? The mark of a good truck company is its ability to prioritize and perform multiple tasks simultaneously. Battalion Chief John Mittendorf. Those things we've talked about, working the list, managing the split, having riding assignments, those things aren't necessary to get the job done. They're not necessary for the fire to go out. They are necessary for you to be good at what you do. Now I've got one more quote. I was having a conversation with Captain Gibson, who's here tonight. Didn't know he was going to be here. Sorry. Putting you in the spotlight for a minute. Had a conversation with him 4 months ago. I was at the fire station. He was driving. Believe it or not, we were nerding out on truck stuff. And we were talking about the truck company split based on building type. And what we were really kind of getting into was how to teach that and what that looks like. And then he says this to me. He says, Jonathan, he says, you and your guys can talk about it. You can study this stuff. You can know it inside and out. And none of it means shit if you don't do it when you go to a fire. Let that sink in a minute. What are we doing right now? We're talking about it. If you walk out of here and never think about it again, it doesn't mean shit. The easy thing is to abandon the plan. The easy thing is not to have a plan. To do this stuff is hard. It takes discipline. Now I'm going to finish with this. This is a picture that was taken a few months ago. And for me, this embodies what we've talked about tonight. He's not here tonight or he'd be pissed. That's the senior man at 1B. That's our crew's senior man. His name's Dale Alexander. Dale is about this close to retirement. He had a retirement date set. It was last summer. Just keeps showing up. Dale's got a bad back. He's got knees that bother him. But Dale loves the fire service. He loves the people. He loves the people in here. He loves the people out there. Dale believes in the mission. Wholeheartedly believes in the mission. This picture was taken after morning checkout. We just finished checking the rigs. Truck 1's sitting in the station. And Dale's drilling dismounts. It's not just going back there and throwing a ladder. He's drilling his dismount. This guy's got every reason not to do this. He's forgot more about fighting fire than some of us know. But he's drilling his dismount. He's in full gear. He's grabbed tools, pulled the ladder from the tunnel, went to the back of the building, stabbed the ladder, and then this picture was snapped, and he's masking up with gloves on. Reason he's masking up with gloves on is because Dale knows that gives seconds back to our victims. Now, I've seen him do this a few times, and how this usually ends is he climbs that ladder, makes the roof, and then he comes down and resets. That's discipline. That's dedication to the craft. You should see him move on the fireground. Anybody ever heard that statement, discipline equals freedom? That guy right there embodies it. Discipline has set that guy free. He flows on the fireground, and he talks while he's doing it. And Dale's not just a step ahead, he's 3 steps, 4 steps ahead. Work the list. Think of it as a path that we walk. The mission has already determined the list for you. It's already done that job for you. The mission will dictate the order in which we attack those things on the list. The mission focus will keep us on the path. That's all I got, guys.
That was awesome.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Snap a picture of that. Anybody needs to reach out to me, you do it at any time. Thank you, guys.
That was a home run, right? Yeah, it's